Can I just say, I love Sarah's resting face. It's so, like, perplexed.
Aw,
I like it.
Thing I've never heard about you.
Sorry. I like to say sort of disarming things quite early on to make you quite uncomfortable. Welcome to the Bookcast Club, a podcast for people who like to chat books. Today it's me, Sarah, coming to you from the Netherlands, and I'm really pleased to have two special guests with me, both of whom have been on the pod before. So we have Kieran, everyone's favourite worst reviewer.
Hello, thank you. If you want proof of how good I am, I would recommend you check out the last Bookcast Club episode, as answering people's Q&As, and if you go on the YouTube channel, I've time-stamped it for ease.
Thank you. Yeah, I think this is like the third or fourth Booker-based episode you've done with us, so what an old hat at this point. Old horse, I could say.
Third, yes, because in 2021, I forgot that we had done it, and we had a huge conversation of, Kieran, we did this last year, and I was like, wow, really? That's gone quick.
I only remember it by books, not by moments with you. I hope you're not upset by that.
You know what? Take what you can. Take what you can.
Who's our second guest, I hear you ask? We also have Sarah Freshly from the YouTube channel, Freshly Read Books.
Woo. Hi.
You just woo yourself in.
Hi, it's me.
Whoop, whoop.
Everybody needs a hype man, and that's me for me.
I did an episode with Sarah earlier this year where we talked about some of her favourite books, so I'm really delighted to have her back on the pod. So I'll put in the show notes links to their channels and their social medias, as well as the previous episodes of the pod that they've been on. So today we're going to talk about the Booker Prize, which is it's your favourite thing, right, Kieran?
I have been known to dabble.
For anyone who is unfamiliar with the Booker Prize, it's a big literary prize in the UK. It's for the best novel written in English each year. The novel has to have been published in the UK, but the author can be from anywhere, and the winner gets £50,000. The shortlist was announced about a month ago, and so we're going to review all the books on it for you today and share our thoughts on the long list and the shortlist and try to predict a winner. But first, you guys both went to the shortlist announcement in London this year, which is very cool. Would you like to tell us the story of like how this happened and how you ended up going to the what you can share, if you can?
Sarah, take the wheel. Take the wheel on this one.
We begged for it, and maybe not quite.
Well, it was to that extent. Let's be honest.
But we definitely asked.
Yes, I begged. I got invited. I said, but I'm only going if you say yes to Sarah. And they were like, and I was like, that's just the rule.
Sorry, so you asked, and then when they said yes, you're like, oh, and by the way, there's a stipulation.
Yes.
Basically, yeah. And they were like, wait, isn't she in the US? And he was like, she'll get her way. She'll get to England if she can go. And I did.
It's like, ad revenue is paying for this. Don't you worry about it, peeps. It was a bit of a blur the whole day.
It went by so quickly. I also didn't sleep the night before because I flew in that night.
Yes, yeah, you arrived from the US in like the day before or something, right?
Oh yeah. I flew from Denver to London, so like middle of the US to London overnight, and then I worked for half a day, and then I went to the shortlist announcement. Yeah, everything's a blur. I think that's a good way to say it. There was great food, great canapes.
Me and Sarah specifically made friends with the catering manager. First of all,
immediately. The first person. We said hi to one of the Booker people like that we've been in contact with, and then we met the caterer.
Yeah.
And then the champagne was great.
Do you know what? Honestly, it was wild. Because obviously we'd never met each other face to face, and I was convinced Sarah was going to catfish me, but it turns out Sarah is who Sarah said she is.
Do you want to explain what catfishing is to the people who might not know what catfishing is? Because I'd really like you to.
I would like to plead the fifth on this one. So, so we met and we were kind of like, well, we're all real, and then we like touched each other's faces, like, whoa, this is incredible. And then we kind of struggled to find our way anywhere through London. Went through a park.
Yeah, we went through that park a lot.
Went through a park a lot. I had to go back to get changed, and then we met up, and then everything kind of happened very quickly. I live streamed the event of the live stream, where reading the other live stream's comments was hilarious to me, with people just being like, "Where's Kieran?" And there's me on the other stream being like, "I'm here." And then I screeched at Marlon James and then ended the live stream because I was like, I got way better things to do, which is talk to Marlon James.
So you did actually get to talk to him for a prolonged period of time.
Maybe 15 minutes.
Oh,
We know what his favorite from the shortlist is.
oh my god! Are you allowed to say?
I think so.
No, Sarah, you haven't been catching up on the social medias.
What?
He said he's not saying.
Okay.
But if you do like a little sound effect, can I tell you what it is? And you can cut it out or something. But that didn't come from me.
I loved Marlon James so much for them. This is wonderful. This has all been worth it.
He was so nice. Like
I
the
love him.
fact that he talked to us like for a while, like we had like a full conversation is just still like we saw him and then we had a conversation. It's so weird.
Have you listened to his podcast?
I haven't, but I do know of it.
He's got a really cool podcast with his editor, which is basically them arguing about old novels, as in
Gioldi.
Victorian era novels, that they just disagree on everything, and it's so funny. And they're both, and his way of reviewing is like, it's so down to earth and humble. He's just like, well, I just think that Jane Eyre is kind of a dick. Like that's the like way that he reviews. He's like, I just really hated her. Sorry. I love it.
Oh my gosh. Oh, I would super listen to that. We also met a judge that was super nice to us. She came up to us purposely and was like, I've been watching like your reviews and like thank you so much. Basically, like I didn't know BookTube existed before becoming a judge, and that was really really cool. That was like the one thing where I was like, ooh, I feel like we did something. Like usually I feel like that talking to our community, but like the talking to like people in the Booker space, I don't often like. It still feels very removed. So it's cool to see that connection.
I would like to interject and say one of my favourite moments when speaking to the judge is where they said that obviously reviewers add a layer of, reading and understanding that sometimes as judges they don't see themselves, so it like helps them articulate more. And Sarah looked me dead in the eye and went, "Have they seen your Glory review?" And I was like, "Oh."
Just adding some insight, that's all.
Just like this woman clearly doesn't know who you are, Kieran, but that's fine.
What a blow in the face. I feel like they are kind of a bit behind in terms of the new way of reviewing and how important it is. So I'm really pleasantly surprised to hear that a judge said that to you.
Yeah, that was nice.
She was lovely. I can't remember. What was her name? Was it Jane?
Helen?
I mean, as of next month, she's not the judge anymore, so who cares?
Exactly.
Time is fleeting. All right, let's go through the shortlist, shall we? So I've just got them in alphabetical order, and I thought I'd introduce it, and then we can give our thoughts. It's very confusing, Kieran, that you keep saying Sarah, which I guess you just have to.
Sarah and Freshly, I'm going to go for from now on.
Yeah, I always call her Freshly in my head. Yeah.
That's happened my whole life, so I'm more than happy with it.
Oh, can I also put this into the podcast before we kick off? Can I say one thing about Freshly that shocked me to my core? And that is Freshly's Welsh language ability. I still remember that moment. Freshly. Honestly, I told so many people and they're like, that
Not
is
a big moment.
the coolest thing ever. No, but really.
Is it good or bad?
I said one word in Welsh.
But you said it in like the best context.
But at a time where it was appropriate to
and
say.
no one was expecting it. And Eric Carl Anderson, Claire Fenby, and Bob the Booker were all like, wait, she speaks Welsh? It was incredible. Can you say the word now, please?
Barod.
Oh!
What does it mean, Kieran?
Ask the resident Welsh speaker here.
Oh, sorry.
Ready. Like ready, Barod?
So we were like, should we go? And we were like still chatting, like conversation waiting, and Sarah just went, Barod? I was like, Dowk. And then we did. Just bounced.
So I've just got them in alphabetical order as they are on the Booker's website. So the first one is Glory by No Violet Bulawayo. This is essentially like an African animal farm. It is a satirization of the... What? I can't see you guys' faces. I'm looking at my notes. What are you laughing at?
Sorry, I looked at Kieran's face. The title of my video is going to be "Don't compare this," or "Stop calling this the African animal farm."
What else am I supposed to call it? It literally is.
I disagree. But that's what my videos are, which isn't out yet.
What would you like me to call it?
A really bad book.
Okay, no. A really good book. that just so happens to have animals as the characters.
Okay. Oh God. My God. Okay. I'll take that bit out.
I'm sorry. I was holding it together and then I saw Kieran's face.
That's fine.
No, keep it in. No, keep it in. This is the discourse. This is the bants.
Okay. This is the discourse. What, 2 sentences in? Okay, so what it is, though, that we can agree on, it is a satirization of the coup/forced outing of Robert Mugabe in Zimbabwe in 2017. All of the characters are animals, hence the comparison, and the author leans a lot into the more absurd events of the coup and other things that are happening around it and politics in general, and also covers some of the much more grisly details about power struggles of this nature. So do you want to start, Kieran, with a bang? Why not? What did you think of this?
So I read all of these in, I would say, resounding speed for me, which was I completed all 13 before the shortlist. And this one has fallen out of my head, and I didn't particularly care. And I just think people who use Twitter in their books is just a trope that's not for me. And I'm not here for it. If you've seen my review, very detailed, very analytical, you can tell the level of ennui I had with it. It's one of those books that, similar to another one on the shortlist that we'll get to, I could see why it would be polarizing, why people absolutely love it, and why people absolutely despise it. But I think there was a lot of, not build-up, but a lot of pages that you have to get to in order for it to, like, really get the motor running. And I think asking people to read, like, 300 pages for 100 pages of mediocre goodness is a lot to ask.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for agreeing, because it was really bad.
Yeah, I don't agree that it was really bad, but I agree with with some of your comments. I quite enjoyed it. Heavy on the quiet. I'm not often a huge fan of satire, but in this instance, I did quite enjoy it. Despite myself, and then I found that some scenes I really liked. There were some tight scenes that I thought were really good. There were some elements of humor that I really liked, but I also found large parts of this really dragged, and especially the last the last third, or maybe that was just when I was starting to get really bored with it. It just sort of went on, and I just desperately wanted some parts of it to be cut out. I completely agree that it's there's just far more in it than is warranted, I think, in this one. But overall, I quite enjoyed it.
I agree with you on the Twitter thing. I almost always hate when that's included in a book, although I do think that she did, for doing a thing I don't like, I think she did it well. Like, I think that the discourse was very accurate to what would actually be on Twitter, like what the polarizing things that you would see. But that being said, it's still not something I love to see in a book, or even like to see in a book, honestly. I really wish that the characters were not animals. I read why she chose to make them animals, which is basically to kind of separate it more, to feel like she was making it more of her own thing and to make it not feel as much like she's writing about real people, which I can appreciate from a writing standpoint, but I don't think it added a whole lot to the reading process, especially since most of the animals weren't chosen to represent anything specific or anything like that. So for me, it was just so jarring sometimes to read about the hooves of the animals doing something, or the dogs barking or whatever. It was like, whoa, okay, that's right. These are animals, not people. Which, and then also it forces a lot of the comparisons to Animal Farm, which I understand. It's about farm animals and it's political. But she also had inspiration from tons of different folklore. It's just that Animal Farm is the one that's most well known to the people that are reading it in English. So it makes sense. But it does annoy me that because they're animals, it's that's all I heard about before I read the book. And I think that it does a lot more than that. My absolute favorite part about it is just how the repetitive phrases that come back up and that are used by different people and for different things was really great. You could see it used on different lines of the political party, but it'll be the same phrase, and it's meant to mean a different thing, or it's meant to pander to different people. And I thought that was really cool to see used for so many different things. It wasn't just one phrase. It would be tons that would be used and reused, even by people that supposedly completely disagreed politically. So that was great. I do think that it was a little long. I agree with both of you guys there. But still, I think overall, I really like this book. My main gripe is that all the characters are animals. I did not appreciate that.
Reading especially when they were going somewhere or like having dinner or doing any of these, I get so caught up in the logistics. I'm like, okay, so this is a horse.
Yes.
This animal's 5 times the size of this next animal. Like,
yeah, and they're driving a car. Excuse me.
Exactly. So they're having this conversation, what, eye to eye, but he's like 3 meters high and this one's like a duck. Like, what?
Yes.
How does this work? Is he sitting on a fence post? I have no idea.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I'd be having a fine time, and then it would like mention something that specific about their like animal body, and then I'd have to like rethink of the entire scene with the actual like farm animals that they are.
I was imagining it like kind of BoJack Horseman essentially, where they're like animals but humanoid essentially. The social media thing, I personally, maybe we're just not the people that need this, but I just feel like if it's ever in there, I never find it particularly informative, deep, meaningful, anything like that. It's either like I agree with you that it was like a pretty good representation of what does happen on Twitter, but
no, it wasn't as good. It wasn't good like Twitter. I don't think it was anything like Twitter, because now people might think, wow, he's really reading way too much into this, but it really griped me. Twitter usernames are not that straightforward, and it bugged me. I was like, no, you need like Miss Strawberry Shortcake XO55. You need those, like, why have you decided to choose this? Or like, can my cat? And you're like, I don't know why have you got this silly...
Or something like unrelated, just in general. To a lot of them were related to the political leaning that they had, which doesn't make sense because it's regular people that are commenting on these things. It's not people that made a Twitter to comment on this one thing.
That's a very specific critique. I can't disagree with you. You're not wrong. So shall we go on to the next one, which is another bit of satire, which is The Trees by Percival Everett. Kieran hates this. You agreed to do this, my friend.
Thank you.
Okay, let me blurb it and then you can complain. So this is set in a small town in Mississippi called Money, and there are a series of really brutal murders happening in the town, and at each of these crime scenes appears a second corpse, always the same corpse, and it's the corpse of a young black boy who was lynched in Money about 65 years before the events that are happening in the novel. And it follows the detectives in this case as they try and work out what's going on.
The boy, he's just meant to look like the boy. He isn't the actual...
Oh, I thought it was the boy. Okay. I didn't finish this one, if that...
Oh, you're fine.
Kieran, you look like you've got something on your mind.
Oh, everyone hates me on my opinions on this.
Yeah, I'm about to hate you on your opinion, but go ahead.
Okay, I've had a lot of time to think about how correct I am and why other people are wrong.
Good start.
First of all, this is dealing with, like, a big chunk of American history. And I think if you know about the history, the more you're going to get out of it. So I think if you're an American reading this, I think a lot of this is going to resonate. Not that I'm saying that the history of lynching doesn't resonate across the world, but it's your history. I knew the story that he was pulling from. I didn't specifically understand it straight away that it was Emmett Till, but I knew enough about it to go, okay, I kind of know what he's pulling from here. But also, to lean into the American thing, it's very American, and it just reminds me of Seinfeld. It's just like quick jokes, or like there'll be a pertinent point, so it'll be like, hey, your shoelaces are undone, and someone will be like, I can't afford shoelaces, and it goes, and everyone's like, laugh track. I think that style of like humour, American humour, I don't like. I don't watch Seinfeld because there's better things going on in my life. I could see it making a really good screenplay. And I said in my review, if Tarantino or Peele took this on as a film, I could see it really working and really resonating. Whereas like a, look, this is funny. I didn't like it. I didn't like the writing style. It was all conversation. And if you don't like the conversation and you don't like Seinfeld, you don't like this, I just didn't like it. I just didn't like it. And if I was going to turn around and said it was amazing, I would be lying. And we wouldn't want liars in the world, would we? No. So I have to buck up the courage and say against the swathes of people who absolutely adored this, I don't think it's that good.
I have to say, first, as a Seinfeld fan, or as somebody who grew up with Seinfeld, I don't think that it's like a fantastic show or anything, but it's very nostalgic for me. It was filmed in front of a live audience, not a laugh track, so just...
They were forced. They were forced to laugh. They were placards.
It's just a little
laugh.
different than like the How I Met Your Mother laugh track thing, you know?
I would like people to note this. I'd like it written on the record, put into the minutes. Sarah, are you American?
Yes.
Case closed.
Anyways, I understand what you're saying, but I think for me, the way I saw the book's humor is more like it was making fun of the buddy cops, or it was doing it in a way that it was like, not necessarily making fun of like, haha, those are so dumb and the humor was so dumb, but in a way that was still like respectful, but playing off of it. But it's for older comedies, a style of comedy that was very popular in the US for a specific time period, but isn't really anymore. And it's more like Seinfeld. That style of comedy isn't really done anymore here. It's not considered that funny. And people that go back and watch it are like, why did anybody find this funny? Which I get. Sometimes I go back to and I'm like, ooh, some of these don't hit the same way they used to. Some of them do, though. I'll stand by some of them. Yeah, so I think that it's more tongue-in-cheek and less like the slapstick is funny, but it's funny that they're doing slapstick to begin with, that like in this very serious novel, they'll like jump back and forth between very serious crimes and talking about something super serious that's a part of American history and the history of a lot of countries, but very, very rooted in American history. And then they'll jump back to like something entirely different that is like, oh, but we don't talk about that and everything's fine and it's funny and we're good. Like, it's just it gives a very weird reading experience that I very much appreciated, because I think just like that whiplash of like trying to pretend like everything's good and like, oh, we just need to get this mystery solved. That's the only thing that's important. And then also like, no, this is the result of something much more traumatic that happened in the past that is being forced into the future by the people that it impacted the most. So like, you can't look away from this. You can't ignore this.
I see this as why I really enjoyed the Fortune Men over other people. I think there's similarities between these two, but obviously with the Fortune Man being set in Cardiff, and I know the story, and it's like my country's history. I could understand why other people reading the Fortune Man might not really understand like the grasp of the situation. I just see what Mohammed is playing with and all the nuances that go into that conversation. I understand like why I enjoyed it a lot more than other people. But I just think with the trees, I don't know if I'm disconnected in some way to that. Similar like the budding cops, like I just don't think that's a thing in the UK, like that like trope. It's very much to me like a Simpsons, Seinfeld, Starsky and Hutch. Like it's always like a version of it that I've seen, and I can't help but think, like, is this? It wasn't for me, but I mean, Everett, he's written 30 other novels, so I'm pretty sure he's written one that I would enjoy, and some of them sound really good and meta, and I like his playfulness, but I think with this, I don't know if I'm just too... I'm not disconnected, that sounds like I'm just like, oh, I don't care, that's not what I'm trying to say.
Removed, maybe?
Yeah, just removed from it.
It's very much written like a lot of older books in the US are written.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, just the way that the white people so casually talk about it, and then like the black cops show up and they're like, oh, sorry, I can't say that. It's so weird to then hear somebody reference something that's happening present day and be like, whoa, like usually people would not be that comfortable talking to other people unless they know that you're also of the same mind. Like, so I would never hear people having that conversation because I wouldn't be known to them as agreeing with them on their stance on racism and black people. I think for a lot of people, unless you're in it, unless you're a part of it, then you wouldn't ever hear those conversations. So it's weird to hear, and then to hear that it's happening right now.
I will say, I didn't like this one either.
Yes! Yes!
I said I didn't finish it. I didn't finish it because I didn't like it. I'm sorry, Sarah. So I can see why some people really would like this, and I didn't like it for some of the reasons that you've already described were the reasons that you didn't like it. So it's very pacey, it's very tightly written, it's very dialogue heavy, none of which are things that I really enjoy. And the description of it being a possible Tarantino film I think is perfect because it's got that really like, I want to use the phrase camp horror vibe to it where the violence is just like, there's blood and gore, and it's very like in a very Tarantino way, which I hate. I hate Tarantino films. I can't deal with it.
I would also like to say I also don't like Tarantino films.
I mean, he's a brilliant director. I don't think he cares if I don't like his films or not. But for me, I just can't deal with the blood. Like it's I don't know, too much.
But if it was a Peele movie, like I feel like he would.
Oh, he would. Yeah, he would. I'm sure he would turn it into a blockbuster. And I just found it so hard to read about this being satirized. Like, it's so... I was reading this at the same time as I was reading The New Jim Crow by Michelle Alexander, which is a non-fiction about incarceration rates in the US and how racialized this is. And I just was like, I don't want to read this as satire. This is such a serious contemporary problem. And I couldn't swallow it being written in this like ho-ho way that it is. I just was like, I don't want to read this. I want to read like a non-fiction and be sad. I don't want to read this like jokey take on it. So I just did not like it.
What that did for me was it kind of felt like how often Black people are told that they're not supposed to care about this anymore. Like, it's in the past. Like, that doesn't happen anymore. So, like, you're fine. Stop worrying about it, you know? And oftentimes it was, I mean, for a while, I think that there was, especially in the era of like buddy comedies, like jokes being made that were a lot of times stereotypical jokes and things like that, laughing at racism like it was solved. Not that you can solve it, but that it didn't exist anymore. And so I think that for me, that's what that was doing. Whether or not that's what the actual intent was, I'm not sure.
I was going to ask, have either of you read The Sellout by Paul Beatty? Not to talk about that, but I think that would be a really interesting one to read alongside The Trees. And having read The Sellout, Beatty and Everett are doing very similar things, but I do think Beatty is... I think he pushes this like satire to like the limit. I don't think you could read it and be comfortable, but equally, all I did was giggle through it because of how like monstrously absurd it moves into. But I think if you've liked Everett or if you didn't like Everett's work, I think Paul Beatty would be a solid go-to just to see what they're talking about, like post-racist America and how does racism work. But I think Beatty hits it off better. But I don't think there's anything very similar to like The Sellout.
Interesting. Do you need to go? Go if you need to.
I'll just shut my door. 2 seconds. She's fine.
Love your comments on this, by the way, sir. Great to have you on. Okay, you guys, buckle up. The next one is Chica Walker by Alan Garner. Right. Does someone else want to blurb this, please? I would really appreciate it if someone else would take the reins on this one.
Yeah, Kieran, go ahead.
Chica Walker is a work by legendary, apparently still alive, fantasy writer Alan Garner, which talks about a boy named Joe who is living possibly in reality, possibly in a dream world that is highly influenced by British and Celtic mythology and folklore, and how this world opens up is through a rag bone man called Treacle Walker, who provides him a glamour-marie and a donkey stone.
Beautiful. I can start. It'll be really short for me. I didn't really understand any of it. I had a really, really hard time with this one. It took me a long time to get through, considering how short it is. I wanted really badly to like it. This is one of those that because it's so different and weird, and like it makes me want to like it. Or to want to understand it at the very least, because I don't even dislike it. I don't think you can really dislike something you don't understand. So I just feel like I don't have an opinion on it because I didn't really understand it. But I think a large part of that comes from I don't like mythological books, or what are they called? Mythic fiction is my least favorite genre. It's the only one that like I avoid actively unless there's a reason to have to read it. And there was a reason to have to read this one, and it went the same way as it does typically with mythic fiction, except that I just didn't understand it more than even the other ones that I've read.
Yeah, I know I also didn't understand this one. This was the most confusing book I've read for a long time, I think. And I know that I know that there's a lot of reference in there to his own work, which I definitely didn't get because I'd never read anything else by him. And I know that he has a lot of references to British mythology and things, which I also definitely didn't get. So a lot of this completely washed over me. So I also have to put my hands up and say I can't really criticize it because I didn't really understand it. But I expected to like this one a lot because I really like Max Porter, and I thought it would be kind of similar. I don't get upset, Kieran. I do like Max Porter. But I didn't like it. I found it so confusing. I wanted it to be like funnier and warmer and have better characters, and it just didn't have any of that for me. So I didn't like it.
I really don't like Max Porter's work, and I loved Treacle Walker. I absolutely adored it, and I think this is a good one to move off from the trees, because I'm going to say the inverse. I understand how people who are not British don't like this, because it's very British, and it's very colloquial, and if you don't know what he's talking about, I can see why some people are just, they go in, this is just rubbish. Like, he's just throwing words on a page. I'm not saying I understood everything that Garner was talking about, but I know enough folklore and mythology to work out what he's getting at. I loved it. It is just like, so similar to what Fresher said about like the trees being very nostalgic of like that time and place. Like Alan Garner's feels like a 90s children's novel, and reading it, it has that style. He also was a 90s children's author, but I think it is just a playful masterpiece of quintessential Britishness that's just wrapped up in quantum mechanics. I love how that you can tell that Garner just had fun writing this. Like, he wasn't trying to write a really serious piece. He's not playing highbrow. He's quite lowbrow throughout all of this, but all of his references just make it this, for what is a shallow book, a deep read. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
Beautiful. We'll just have to live in ignorance, Freshly, and be happy with that. I believe you. Like, I know that I missed 85% of this.
Yeah, right? Like, that's all I can really say. But it'd be great if you believed me about the trees.
I do believe you about the trees. As I said, I loved your comments.
Not you. It would be great if Kieran could believe me about the trees, since I believe you about Treacle Walker.
All right, I'm going to move us on, if that's all right, lads.
And the bit where the Tralfalmadorians turn up halfway through the book.
Kieran, listen, I could not be happier for you that you found a book that you enjoy. I mean, we honestly, we have to celebrate this.
Congratulations.
Truly. It's like Hallie's comment at this point. Well, actually, that's probably not true, but yeah, you do spend a lot of time complaining.
I do. It's a fact. All
right, the next one is The Seven Moons of Maliameda by Sheehan Karuna Talaka. So this is a Sri Lankan novel about Maliameda, a photographer, a photographer who has just died, and it follows kind of in part what's happening, I guess, like on the ground, with his family trying to work out what happened to him and with the police who were involved, and also in part it follows him in the afterlife where he has 7 moons worth of time to try and contact some people and show them where some photos are. So what did you guys think of this one? What did you think, Sarah?
This is actually the most recent, or the last one that I read. And I still don't know that I've fully gathered my thoughts on it, but I do know that I really enjoyed reading this one for the most part. I think in the middle of the book, it does drag quite a bit, or it did for me anyways. It helped, I think, that each of the moons or each of the days like started going by faster, or there was less to them as the story went on. But I did end up really, especially the ending, I thought it was great how it was tied together in the end. I really liked the characters. I was surprised by how much I liked Molly, despite, if someone were to describe to me him as a character, I don't think that I would think that I'd like him, if that makes sense. But reading him, I did. And even though he's got a lot of flaws and he keeps himself very distant from the people that he are supposed to be the closest people in his life, like his friends, his relationships and everything. There's a lot to not like about him. And yet he's somehow a really good main character for this type of story, and he's like so selfish, but I think that it's a good representation of like humanity and how he's like unable to let go of like, no, this is a really important thing, and you guys all need to listen to me. I did something really important. We need to figure this out. Why isn't anybody trying to figure this out? An inability to move on, or to see that, he's, I don't want to say not special, but that there are a lot of people that are either dealing with similar things or have done similar things that'll never be like brought to light, or he sees himself as like this singular like the main character of his own story. And to argue, he is the main character of this story, but I think it's all about how there's a lot of characters and even though his name's on the front of the book and it's about him, it's about him being just one of many.
I would say that The Seven Moons of Maliameda is the Dyson Airwrap of the literary sphere. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk.
What's a Dyson Airwrap?
You don't know what Dyson Airwrap is?
No.
Oh, you haven't seen Dyson's Airwrap? Mate, everyone wants a Dyson Airwrap.
What are you talking about?
What are you talking about? Is this a vacuum cleaner?
No, you ding dong.
Dyson as in
James Dyson.
Yes, James, a Dyson Airwrap. Have you not seen these?
Airwrap?
Is this a pen?
No, it's a hairdryer.
Okay.
Everyone wants one.
Oh,
they're incredible.
Well,
they're like
everyone.
£500, and they dry and straighten your hair at once.
my hairdresser does use that.
How good are they?
I thought they made vacuum cleaners.
It's the same company.
Yeah, it is the same. It is the same company.
How good are they, Sarah? How good is the hair? How good are the Dyson Airwraps?
I've never used one myself. Just my hairdresser uses one. It seems good. I don't know.
Did you expect, Sarah, when you came here today, that you would have to defend the brand of hairdryer that your hairdresser uses?
I'm just surprised you don't know what a Dyson Airwrap is, and I do.
Sorry. Yeah, well, I mean, you're obviously much more into the haircare business than Freshly and I are.
Actually, and I think the Airwrap isn't the hairdryer. It looks like it's the styling tool.
Yeah,
for like curling hair and stuff.
Yeah, that straightens and dries the hair.
Yeah, I think I have seen this on Instagram. I think it blasts.
Oh, okay.
heat
Then
or
never mind.
something.
My hairdresser doesn't have that. She just has the blow dryer, the one that has like the weird
It's just
circle
a
thing.
blow dryer.
Yeah, it doesn't style hair. It just blow dries.
Right, you know what? It's good. There you go. Are you happy now? You happy for ruining that?
Oh,
that
it's
moment?
good.
It's good.
Oh, right.
I wasn't sure if you were coming to a thing that was like, oh, it's super overrated. It's not actually good.
Yeah, I thought maybe it was like a like watching paint dry reference. Like it's like getting my hairs dried individually or something like that. But you liked it, Kieran.
You haven't seen my review?
Of this one, no. Oh, wait, no. I don't think so. Sorry.
I missed Strictly Come Dancing for this, and this is the audience I
I've
get.
watched a lot of your reviews. I can't watch everything.
I just finished Seven Moons. You know, I don't watch reviews until I finish the book.
Oh, is this directed at Sarah? Yeah, shame on you, Freshly. Jesus.
Yeah, we've lost the momentum on this. Yeah, it's good. Do you know who did watch my review? Karuna Talaka himself, and he messaged me personally saying thank you.
Oh.
So,
Wow.
yeah, if he was addressed, he would have pockets. Is that better?
Okay, great.
You've
Well,
ruined it. I called it the Sri Lanka Midnight's Children. You don't know I wouldn't
oh
put
yeah, I
there.
have seen that actually. No, I remember. You published this ages ago, right? Like a month ago.
It was like, I think about a month ago, yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Before,
Come on.
yeah.
Okay, right. What do I think of it? I hear everyone say.
Yeah, what do you think of it?
Yeah. So I started this when the long list was announced. Wasn't really into it. Put it down, and now I'm reading it again for the second time. Generally, I really don't like afterlife type stuff. I'm pretty hardcore atheist, so that's really put me off the book. But I'm enjoying it. The second time I'm reading it, I'm enjoying it a lot more. I have to say, like you were saying about the characters, I basically like reading about every single character that's not Marley much more. Like his little troop through the afterlife is not really my thing, but I am enjoying the rest of it. I think it's very well written. Generally enjoying it. Yeah, thematically not exactly my thing, but overall enjoying it.
If you had to compare it to a hair brand,
A hair brand. Oh, that's a great question. I have heard that there's a Dyson thing which is quite good.
Dyson Airwrap. Mention it to your friends. Be like, if you message any of your mates I went, do you want a Dyson Airwrap? I have one. Watch them, they'll be ringing.
Well, I do need some new friends, so this is great as a tactic. Wonderful. Sorry, Kieran. So Kieran really liked it. I quite like it so far. And Freshly, you, what did you say?
I liked it quite a bit, yeah.
Quite a bit. Okay, wicked. Excellent. Let's move on then to Small Things Like These by Claire Keegan. This is a very little novel set in a small Irish town in the 1980s. It follows a man called Bill Furlong. There's a kind of orphanage/home for young girls run by the local church and a group of nuns in the little sort of village/town. And Bill is kind of semi-conscious that something is not quite right in this home, and he's sort of grappling with himself what he should do about it, because obviously this church is quite entrenched in the community. What did you think, Kieran?
I put aside a day to read this because it's like 120 pages, and I read it in 1 hour and enjoyed it. But do you know what I enjoyed more, Sarah and Freshly? That because I used all that time to read that book and spent so little, that I signed up to the Bookcast Club Patreon. And did you know that the amount of content that gets released early, those extra juicy episodes that give you those warm fuzzies, truly, it was an experience. And by signing up to Patreon through the Bookcast Club, you're supporting independent creators. And I think that's really what Claire Keegan wants. I don't regret any of the money that has left my bank account, and I am proud to be a patron of this society. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kieran.
You weren't expecting that, were you?
No, I'm very confused. I feel a bit,
Thank you.
yeah, you know when the school bully pats you? That's how I
No.
feel.
Well, you always mention like, oh, we never really plug each other. I'm like, well, I'll do it. I don't care. Okay,
well, you've got a great, well, if this is what we're doing, you've got a great coffee as well, which is basically the same thing as Patreon. And I'm also on yours.
It is a very good coffee, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, well, you also you do early access. What else do? You do bonus stuff. A lot of stuff I don't have access to because it's on a higher tier that I pay. But that's fine. That's what I mostly notice. I'm like, oh, not again.
But to go back to Clay. No, you know what? No, I'm not going to talk about that. I've done my bit for this.
Okay,
for this
love
community.
it. Oh, I genuinely do really appreciate it. So thanks. I was just getting increasingly scared. Like, this is very nice. Where is this going? I have no idea.
If you could see Sarah's face as I was saying it, like, please stop plugging. I was like, no. I will unplug my Dyson Airwrap and plug the plug-in.
Love it. Thanks,
Thank
Kieran.
you.
Perfect.
I liked this one as well. Like, so Claire Keegan is a short story writer, and you can really tell here. I think the writing was good, subtle, pacing was good. Good example of what you can do in like a short space of time for a novel. However, I have to say it's been quite a while since I read it. Will this stay with me? Can I remember much of it? No. Is it going to stay with me? I would also say no. Thematically, I also feel like I've read this kind of story quite a few times before, so although it was good, for me it wasn't anything new or exciting. I don't think I will even remember it at the end of the year as a book that I read this year, to be honest, apart from the fact that it's on the shortlist.
My review doesn't involve a plug, so sorry. Yeah, this one, I agree. I think that it is a bit forgettable. I think that a large part of that is to do with how small it is, because I think that I like the story as a whole and what the message is, but I think that it could have gone deeper into the main character. What is his name? Bill? Into like his family. I would have been really interested to hear more from them and what they thought, or somebody in the town, like just more in general. I think that this story deserved more written about it. I think it was far too short, which is not usually a complaint I have. Usually I'm very appreciative that something's done short, but it just felt like it kind of scratched the surface and that was it. It did, however, lead me to researching a lot about the Magdalene laundries, which I knew absolutely nothing about before this book. And so I am very appreciative to it for that, because I like a large part of my family comes from Ireland. My grandma was born there, and I didn't know about this, and it's a big part of Irish history, unfortunately. And so it was really a good learning experience. It led to a good learning experience for me, even though in the book I didn't feel like I gained a ton through the book, but the overall message, like I think it had a good message. It just could have done it better.
Cool. Thanks so much for the plug, by the way, Kieran. I really do appreciate it. I feel bad now for making fun of you.
Well, I mean, for a price of only £2 per month, that's less than a cup of coffee. And the way that inflation is going, it is so little for so much.
Okay, so the last one is O. William by Elizabeth Strout. This is the third book in Elizabeth Strout's series about Lucy Barton. In the series, Lucy Barton is a really successful writer in New York who had a really, really difficult childhood, and the series of books that Strout has written touches on different aspects of her life, e.g. her childhood, her teenage years, getting into university, moments in her first marriage, moments in her second. And O. William specifically is about her and her first husband sort of reuniting a bit after her second husband has died. So they have 2 children together, so they, even though they're not married anymore, they still have to communicate quite regularly. And she ends up getting involved with something that's going on with her first husband, William. Yeah, Sarah, do you want to go first?
I liked this one a lot more than I thought I was going to. I really expected, I mean, the series as a whole, I kind of expected to be something that I was kind of just meh about. Like, I enjoyed enough while reading or something along those lines. Not that I didn't expect to dislike it, but I certainly didn't expect to have the best time reading it or to be excited about reading future books within the series. But I was, after reading the first book, I was excited about the second book, and after that I was excited about the third book, and I'm still excited to read the fourth book coming out when I get my hands on it, which is great. I do still think that it doesn't scream Booker to me. I don't think that it's I think that it's just missing a little something that puts it over the top to be this great literary fiction book. And I think that also there's always the question of, should a book in a series be a part of this, which I do think that books and series should always be considered with Booker. I really like that they do that. But for this specific series, I think that this book alone, I can't see it winning. Oh, spoiler. Now you know one of the books that isn't my prediction. But I think that it did a good job. But I just think that with the prior knowledge that you get through the series, I think that could put this book over the top, but they're not allowed to consider that. So I don't think that alone it's really getting there.
I really liked this as well. I also was not expecting to like it that much. I think I had the same reaction as a lot of people who hadn't read Elizabeth Strout before. And I also enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I did. It's quite quiet and reflective. It's quite, I don't know, different for something that was on the shortlist. It's just not at all what I ever would have expected to be on the shortlist. But there's something about her writing that I find really compelling, actually, and really absorbing. So I also read all 3 of these, and I just really enjoyed them a lot more than I thought I would. Yeah, in terms of, do you guys think, oh, sorry, Kieran, you tell us what you think, and then I'll ask a question.
It's fine, wasn't it?
Yeah. Do you think you need to read the 2 to enjoy the third? I would say no, on balance.
Yes, I think I would say you have to. On the basis that I think you need to understand Lucy Barton's history that she talks about in My Name is Lucy Barton. Maybe you could skip anything as possible, because that kind of talks about the town that they're in. But I think for O. William, I'm a bit of a stickler. I think you should read the trilogy, because the author didn't write O. William first, and then decided, I'll build up on top of that. So I'm a bit of a, just go by publication order. I'm just that type of guy. But I think knowing a bit more about Lucy Barton, her relationships and her strains, and that contrast between why William is integral to her life and how she doesn't really want to let go, I think you kind of need that mechanism in the background to understand what O. William's doing.
Yeah, I think you might be okay. You would definitely miss some of the stuff, but I think you would be okay if you really wanted to just read it by itself. They are short, though. I mean, Lucy Barton itself is just over 100 pages, I think. So, yeah, but I agree that probably the second one you could skip. But yeah, I think you'd be on balance okay. But yeah, it is interesting to think about it as a judge. I would find, because presumably they've read the first 2 as well, so I would find it really hard to consider it by itself. It's I can't imagine how you would do that. All right, so done in terms of reviews on the shortlist.
Mm-hmm.
I thought, so the question first, what would you guys change on the shortlist? What are your thoughts on the shortlist as a whole? You've both read the whole long list, right? Yep.
Have you actually, Sarah? Freshly, have you actually?
Yeah.
This is the first year.
Nice.
It's not. You always say
No. Wait, have you finished Paradise by...
Okay, that I did not. I didn't finish all those books, but
you haven't
last
done a full
Booker,
Booker yet.
last Booker, I read all of the Booker books before they were announced, or before the prize was announced. Yes, we've had this conversation a million times.
But you didn't do International Booker, so you haven't done a full year. You're a fake.
Oh my gosh, I'll probably never do a full year.
I'm proud of you. Well done.
Thank you. See, Sarah's proud of me.
I've read like 10 of them, which is fucking a lot of books. Plus those freaking 2 Elizabeth Strout books.
Exactly.
So what are your thoughts on the shortlist? Was it the shortlist you were expecting? And specifically, what would you take off from the shortlist and put on if there's anything that you're thinking that you wish it was on the shortlist?
Well, as Sarah apparently is such an aficionado this year in Booker, you take it away.
Bit a bitch.
Really liked Trust, and I was disappointed to not see that on the shortlist. I think that it's tough because that's also a very American book. The Trees is a very American book, and I think William, it's not very American, but it's very Midwestern. But I think that everybody kind of has a place that feels a little Midwest in other not in like the culture, like the things that are available there, but just in the vibe that it has. So I don't think that that's a stretch to hold on to. And I would feel weird saying remove the Trees for Trust, even though I do think that'd be weird to have like 2 super American feeling books on the short list, but I'm going to do it anyways. And I'm going to say that I feel like remove Small Things Like These and replace with Trust. I think it makes sense. I don't know. I really like Trust, and that's what I have to say. That was the only one I was super disappointed to not see on the short list.
I think Booker now is moving in a trajectory away from what it previously has been. And if that's good or if it's bad is down to the people reading it. But I think this shortlist, for me, kind of solidified that we're going for general readership more so. I think the Trees, Small Things Like These, William, those 3 are very approachable to anyone. I think if I was going to do the shortlist, Trust would be on there, but I kind of didn't see it making the shortlist anyway, because I think it's very American. I hadn't read The Trees at that point yet, but I can see why The Trees is maybe more important, addressing racism, where the American dream and the changing landscape of that, maybe not so much. But I'd probably have as well After Sappho. I thought that was really interesting. But again, kind of see why you wouldn't put on a shortlist if you're going for that, The Testament, Shuggy Bane, Untitled Blood is Black.
Sorry, would you call At Night All Blood is Black super approachable?
I just knew it would annoy you, so I went for it.
Oh, okay. And it did. Success.
But I think all the judges for the past two years have said it's all about getting people to read. And I think all the marketing that Booker has done around Booker for this year has been, let's get people who don't read in, which is great. I'm not going to whinge about more people reading. But I think people who come into the Booker are expecting something else who have followed it. And I could never see William making a shortlist. But kind of what we said when we did our shortlist predictions the day that the long list was announced, my reasoning was, wouldn't it be a bit of a meme if it did? And then it did. So I'd probably take William off, and I'd probably take Glory off. I'd probably swap those.
For?
After Sappho and Trust. I didn't like The Trees, but I don't think it's a bad move that it's on the shortlist. I think it's an important piece of work that just didn't resonate with me, but I understand why it's on there. And I think having Glory and The Trees side by side, I think The Trees is somewhat stronger in the fact that everyone can kind of know what's going on, where I think Glory's kind of pushing that boat.
I would take off Small Things Like These and replace it with Trust, I think. I was quite surprised Trust didn't make it. Although, as you're saying this stuff about Booker moving on, which is a conversation we've had like every year for the past 3 years, and I'm still adjusting to it. I see what you're saying. And then O. William, in terms of like having slightly more readable books, I think I would have preferred to see Case Study on there over O. William, because I liked it. I thought it was really cool and a bit more interesting than O. William, but still being very approachable. So,
what else was on the long list? Let me have a think now, because I might have missed a book.
So let's quickly go. The Colony, After Sappho, Glory, Small Things Like These, Night Crawling, Maps of Our Spectacular Bodies, Case Study, Treacle Walker, The Trees, Trust, The Seven Moons, O. William, and Booth.
I like Case Study.
Yeah, like if you think about it in terms of O. William, I think it's slightly more interesting.
I kind of want a William to win just for the meme, though. I think so many people would be like, I don't know what's going on here, and I'm kind of here for it.
Great segue. Thanks, Kieran. Who do you think will win? 2 questions. Who would you like to win? And who do you think will win?
We haven't even done our own video on this yet. We don't even know. We can spoil it, Sarah. The build-up will be important in ours.
Exclusive.
It's down between 2, but I really, really want Treacle Walker to win.
But which one do you think is going to win?
Treacle Walker.
Oh, it's the same for you. The one you want to win and the one you think will win?
The one I want to win is O. William, just for the carnage.
Okay.
But the one that I think should win is Treacle Walker.
Okay, what do you think will win?
Probably The Trees.
These are very different answers.
On the basis that everyone thought Atwood would win. Everyone thought Atwood would win straight away, and I was like, wow, the Testaments. And then Testaments won. No one was really expecting Bernardine Everest Stowe. But everyone was like, that's the surefire one. Bam, it won. Shuggy Bane, I was like, wow, it's great. That's the surefire winner. Bam, it won. And I feel as though everyone's gone, The Trees, wow, it's great. It should win. And it most likely will.
This is so hard. I don't even know. I've had such a hard time trying to decide which one. Even like as we've been talking about each of the ones, I was like, oh, I'll definitely know by the end because we'll have talked about each of these books and it'll be like a nice refresher, especially hearing like both of your thoughts as well. But I think that the one that I want to win is Seven Moons. I can't even explain why, really. I really liked what it was doing, and I really liked the way that it was told. I like afterlife stories. And it seems I could feel it in my bones that it could be a Booker winner, which actually I think that that's my prediction for what will win as well. For memes, I think that Treacle Walker would be funny. Because so many people didn't understand it, that there'd be so many people that would just be like, what?
Yeah, I feel like Treacle Walker definitely won't win for that reason with this like new trajectory that we're on board
I think there's too many people that don't understand it.
Treacle Walker will be the new Bone People. It'll just be people being like, I have no concept.
Bone People's way easier to understand than Treacle Walker.
Hugh's book is like impenetrable. It's like it's known for being impenetrable.
It's just because this book hasn't been around long enough to be known as being impenetrable.
It's difficult. I will say Treacle Walker. I think what I like about it the most is the fact that you expect that level of like head scratch what's going on with a really big book, and the fact that it's like I think it's just over 20,000 words of people being like, I don't really understand this comic books and the characters are coming out. This should be easy. And then it just goes, nope.
I just think it'd be funny seeing more people come to read it only to not understand it because it won. Being like, oh yeah, I'll pick this thing up. And then being like, wait, sorry, what?
I think it will be Glory or Seven Moons. I think I'm going to put my money on Glory, but that's the one that I've intuition about, but either of those.
I wouldn't be upset if Seven Moons won, just to like put it on the record. I wouldn't be upset. I'd be quite happy. That's the one I'm torn between, that or Treacle Walker. Yeah. I think Treacle Walker, I think it's just so unsurprising. No. The other way. It's so surprising as a book of what you expect going into it to what it is, that I think is just... I mean, you could reread that book a lot. I always think about this with judges, like, if they have to reread the book and come to it, like, how much are you going to get out of a William? Whereas I can imagine just, like, the sheer, like, hatred and love for Treacle Walker would Garner comment. Because it's Alan Garner, you're welcome.
He's peaked. Yeah, because the judges, as far as I understand, they read everything that's nominated, and then they read the long list again when the long list comes out to choose the shortlist, and then they read the shortlist again to choose the winner. So by the time they get to the winner, they've read those books on the shortlist 3 times.
That's a good point. Yeah, I feel even more strongly for Seven Moons now. Although Seven Moons and Glory were also the 2 that I was torn between. I could see the trees, for sure.
That might really depend on the judging panel that I haven't looked up.
Yeah.
How much the trees sits with them.
Okay, so,
Right.
The chair is a cultural biographer. I think there's another biographer. You have Alan McBainu. His moniker is the African Samuel Beckett. But I've read 2 of his books, and I'm glad he didn't come up to me because they were both rubbish in my eyes. But he's been shortlisted for the International Booker, so what do I know? He writes in English. I'm speaking rubbish. Nevertheless, they were atrocious. So you have those 3. I think another person's a biographer as well. So you have 2 biographers, and I think the trees fits in that wheelhouse, similarly to why After Sappho made a lot of sense. Just about the biography of those people. Case Study made a lot of sense because about biography going on there. So I think the wheelhouse sits in the trees. I can see it as well with Alan McBainu. He's a satiricist.
And our favorite judge, Helen. Her name is Helen.
Helen, yes.
Is a historian.
I think the trees hits the sweet spot for all of them. But that is like a real, like, Occam's razor approach. But I'm here for it.
The one that I would be the most surprised, I think, would be Small Things Like These. That would be the one that I would really go, what?
I actually don't think I'd be that surprised by it.
I would be.
I could see them doing that. The one I'd be the most surprised by, I think, is O. William.
Well, I'm now on the O. William meme train.
Yeah. It would be Bants, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
But that's why it would be a meme, right? It's because it would be unexpected.
Well, I think if O. William won, I'd just be like, of course. Fucking of course.
Classic.
Oh, William.
Oh, William. I could see small things like these. I mean, it's done the round on prizes. I think it's a strong book.
Yeah.
I think it is what it is. I know it's like a really bad review tactic, but for what it is, I don't think you can knock it. Is it the best book about the Magdalene laundries? Probably not. Is it the best Irish Christmas story? Probably not. But I think pulling all those things together, it doesn't do much. But to not do much well is real damn hard.
Do
you know what you're starting to make this book sound like? Shuggy Bane.
That's exactly what I was thinking. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could go with that. I can go with that.
Great. So this episode comes out on the Friday before the winner is announced. So it comes out on Friday. Monday is the day the winner is announced. So
6 days.
So it's currently the 8th of October.
Yeah.
14th it comes out. 17th is the winner announcement.
I'll be live streaming. Bye.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap up. Thank you so much, you guys. Really appreciate you coming on. Love the conversation. That was it. That was our thoughts. Those were our predictions where I think we really hedged our bets there. I think basically we're going to be right.
All the books. Just
yeah, literally. Is there anything we didn't predict? No. So we're on a very good run here. Well done. So I will link Sarah's channel and social media and all that kind of stuff in the show notes, and Kieran as well. If you're not familiar with their stuff already, please go and check them out because they're both wonderful. And they're great, and there's much more Booker content from both of them, which is, I'm sure, exactly what you need at this time in your life. If you want to contact the podcast specifically, you can contact us on email at thebookcastclub@outlook.com. We are on Twitter and Instagram at Bookcast Club on both of those. You can sign up to our newsletter. Links for that is in the show notes. And, of course, our Patreon, beautifully plugged by Kieran before, where we have bonus episodes, early access to the podcast, and personalised book recommendations. And we also send you books in the post sometimes. Thank you so much, Sarah and Kieran. Happy Booker! And talk to you guys soon.
Bye.
Bye.